All right, everybody. I want to welcome you all to maybe the most important day in our country's history. It's episode 52 of the Fantasy Timeline, and 52 episodes, Bill. That means 1 year, brother. We've been doing this for a year. We've been flapping our gums. I've been giving very mediocre to below average advice. You have been saving me by using your big brain and telling me where I've gone wrong. And we've done it 52 straight times, man. So how you doing?
Oh, doing good. This is pretty cool, just saying that we did it for a year and consistently every week. So we didn't miss one, and it's been a great time, my man.
Yeah, man. And like I said, luckily in this time in American history, there's not anything going on. So we
That's
are
right.
the biggest deal in the nation, not just in the fantasy football community, in the nation. Nothing's going on.
Nothing.
It's just you and I killing it, doing what we've been doing for 52 straight weeks. So, this is going to be a really cool show because we're going to have a lot of guests, a lot of surprises, a lot of people coming on that have been a part of this whole ride that we've been on for an entire year. So as we're chatting about it, we're gonna throw our first guest on. It's our main man, Larry Monkey, and he's muted. Let's see.
Welcome, professional. Oh,
Okay, there we go.
Unmute.
There we
Hey,
go.
man. What's
How
up,
you doing?
guys?
How you doing, Larry? And if you guys don't know, you should know. This is FF Larry Monkey from the Dynasty Hot Sauce Podcast. One of the most just laid back, fun podcasts you're ever going to listen to. Bill and I have both been on. There's a drink cracking contest going on right now between Larry and Bill. Bill is repping the White Claw Nation. Larry, I'm going to guess that's a Guinness in your hand.
Yes. Ooh, look at that fancy ice cube in Bill's glass.
Yeah, this is my Jameson.
Wow.
So Larry, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm great, man. I'm thankful you threw on you circulated that link on the famous timeline chat, right?
Yep.
And
FTC.
yeah. So yeah, happy 1 year. That's a milestone, man. 1 year.
And that's why Larry is one of the best in the business, repping the fantasy timeline chat, the FTC, if you will. And as Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse would say, and we will. It's live, it's happening. If you're listening to this and you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, I've never heard of this thing, what's going on? First of all, you should be listening better. And second of all, send the show handle at Fantasy Timeline, Bill at Super Duper Flex, or me, Josh at Real Fantasy TL, a shout out and just say, hey man, I want to get in that chat. That chat is lit. That chat is live, and it's a good place to be. So since we got all of the pleasantries out of the way, we're gonna go right into the news, and we're gonna start it off Thursday night. That was a game that was played. It was the Falcons and the Panthers. My biggest takeaway was Julio didn't get into the end zone, which is kind of what Julio always does, but still had a great game. I think he went 7 for 137 or something like that. I'm pulling this off the top of my head, so I could be dead wrong about that. But Bill, anything else you see from that game? Anything that you want to throw out? Any fantasy nuggets?
God, it feels like that was so long ago. I can't even hardly remember the game, to be honest with you.
It wasn't memorable. I'll put it to you that way. It was not memorable.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm taking out of any of that is that CMC is practicing this week. That's the best thing I have, and so I think he's going to be playing this week. So Mike Davis, your number 8 PPR RB, is no more, and it sounds like CMC is going to be the guy. But I honestly cannot remember any of that game, so my bad.
Well, it's cool that you brought up CMC because I legitimately thought that Mike Davis had, with the first kind of 4 weeks of what he did, really carved himself out a role. And I'm not saying a big role, maybe 20-25% of snaps, but these last couple of weeks, he's kind of thrown the dirt on his own grave.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that if CMC is healthy, you're going to see that 95 to 98% snap share going to him, and we'll see Mike Davis once in a blue moon and go with that. Larry, anything interest you from that game, or you want to move it on?
No, I was when you brought it up, I was like, man, when was this? Which game was this? I was right there with Bill, man, and I'm like, oh, was this the game where DJ Moore did absolutely nothing until like a minute left, and he caught like a 45-yard pass or something? Was that the same game?
Well, see, I'm going to tell you, our DAT Network brother, Rocky Petrella, loves DJ Moore, and that sounds like a lot of DJ Moore games actually, where he does very little, but still either carves himself out a touchdown or 90-something yards, and then people get excited about him again, while Robbie Anderson is just getting double-digit catches and going for over 100. So it's whatever, and I'll say that to Rocky if and when he pops on, because I just like riling him up. But yeah, that could have been DJ Moore, because that seems like DJ Moore 2 out of every 3 weeks. So we'll just go with it. Yeah, that was DJ Moore. So since our memory of that game has hazy, we'll move on to the Patriots and Bills, because we're all going to remember that game too. Damian Harris, 102 yards and a touchdown, and Zach Moss, 81 yards and 2 touchdowns, rushed the fantasy glory. And I put this in parentheses: I still don't want either one of them on my team. I'm sure you guys will talk me out of that, but just neither one of them excite me. So Larry, am I right, or are you trying to grab yourself some Damian Harris and Zach Moss?
I have a share of Damian Harris that I just sent around for seconds today and just got rejected. So
it seems like everyone is on my bandwagon. They don't want.
I got the counter. I got the 22-third counter, which is basically like, hey, up yours with that. Yeah, that's basically like, fuck you.
Wow, not even the 22-second. They said, hey, about a 22-third. If you take that in your life.
That was the counter for my Damian Harris for a second.
Wow. Bill, what about you? Either one of those guys interest you?
Yeah, I mean, they both interest me. I mean, I don't mind having them on my roster. I mean, it's not guys I want to rely on, but in some of my teams that I did 0 RB, I'm completely content having those guys and even starting them if I have to. But, you know what you're going to get out of them. They're not going to be prolific. I mean, and the interesting thing is that, Zach Moss did all right, but so did Singletary. So it was kind of weird how Singletary, when he had all the opportunity, really didn't take it. And then once Zach Moss came back, it actually made him more efficient. And maybe it's just the matchup. So, we got to take that into account as well. But Zach Moss has done all right the last 2 weeks, at least fantasy wise. And, he's a rookie that at least has popped a little bit. So I don't mind it. And obviously he's getting the goal line work. I think we just have to accept that Damian Harris is going to be no more than Sony Michel at the high end, right? Like, he's not getting targets at all. So, I mean, they are what they are, but I don't mind having them on my roster.
Man, it makes me cry a little bit inside. I was so high on Sony Michel, and I don't think I've ever been more wrong about anything in my life for as high as I was on Sony Michel. But yeah, that's why you live and you learn. So we're going to move on to the next game here. Titans Bengals. I'm not going to lie, not the way I expected this game to go, but Gio Bernard, 78 total yards, 2 touchdowns. That man might be the real number 1 running back in Cincinnati. I mean, we've seen Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon had that 3 touchdown game, and everyone got excited, and then he did Joe Mixon things, and what are you gonna do? But how do you guys feel about Gio, and knowing that what's his name? That other guy, Joe Mixon, will probably be back after the bye. Are you willing to pay anything to snag you a little Gio Bernard just in case?
First of all, I would feel the same way you do if I had him on my 6-1, 16 team HQ1 league team.
Listen, Larry, I don't like to be this guy. I just have to correct you. That team is actually 7-1. I just
I'm living in last week's games.
That's a right. You didn't want to live in last week's games because you played me last week, and we all know what happened. So
we didn't. Did we play?
Yeah, I kind of beat you by like.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Yeah, so it was a 2-game slide. Yeah,
Larry blacked out.
Yeah,
it was a 2-game slide.
I mean, when you get beat
man,
by
you contributed to
points, I understand the blackout. I mean, that's happened to me before, and I sure as hell have shut that out of my memory.
You've been crushing, man, and Gio Bernard is a big part of that.
You know, Gio Bernard, I got him in the startup in that league, going 3 years strong.
Wow, he's an original, huh?
And no one's even tried to get him as a throw-in in a trade. Everyone just hates Gio Bernard. And I love Gio Bernard. I loved him during the draft process when, you know, we were talking about Eddie Lacy and we were talking about the big boys in that draft. And I was like, man, I like this guy Gio Bernard over here. He can do a little bit of everything. And, you know, they disrespect him. They put Joe Mixon out there, and he stumbles and fumbles and bumbles, and then
I mean, he's known to carry the load when asked to. I mean, but he's another guy that gets banged up a lot too. So, but yeah, he catches the ball. He can, you know, he's been there forever, so he knows the deal.
And he's got the sweetest mustache in the business right now. Bill, what about you? Are you paying anything to get yourself a little Gio Bernard just in case?
No, I mean, if I'm on a contender, I would have a couple weeks ago, like if I needed a running back. But he is what he is. He's the replacement to Mixon. Like, he doesn't play that much when Mixon is healthy. So you only get. I mean, he's a great handcuff in that regard, but you're only getting you're not going to be able to use him other weeks really, unless they're just getting blown out. So, I mean, he's a fine guy to keep on your bench, but you just know that he's a guy that's going to be sitting there except for like a handful of times, you know, every couple of years, I guess. So,
like, if you have Singletary, Moss, and Gio Bernard, he's the third guy probably.
Yeah, for sure, because he's just like, but you know when to play him, and that's the positive sign, right? Like, so it's either going to be an all or nothing kind of thing with him, as opposed to, I don't know which, like, should I even play him or not, you know? So I like it. The black and white's kind of nice at times, you know, where you can have that decision. So,
well, we got a couple more people jumping in. I'm going to throw them in right now. We got one half of the Dynasty Junkies, maybe the better half of the Dynasty Junkies.
Definitely the better half.
Just because he said he gave us the commitment that he was coming, and you know that other guy.
I was bored. Is there anything special going on tonight?
Nothing going on. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's probably the most important day in our country's history, just because there's really not anything else major going on right now. So, it's us, you know, 1 year anniversary. We're going to throw you right into the deep end, Rocky, and talk to you about Gio Bernard. Do you like him? Are you spending anything to try to get him?
I did send Bill a third in the league last week.
Nice.
So I mean, if I'm contending, hey Larry, how's it going?
All right, man.
Yeah, I got my beer.
Nice.
But anyway, I mean, right now I'm not sure because I think Mixon's going to be back after the bye. I mean, I don't have a problem with a third because I don't care about thirds. So that's why I did it with Bill, and I could start. And last week I did it before last week, so I could start him, and I got 20 points out of him.
Yeah,
got a nice win against Bobby Koch.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I did thank Bill in the chat afterwards.
Yeah, they're rubbing it in Bobby's face.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not that interested otherwise now, assuming Mixon's going to be healthy. But again, I wouldn't have a problem with a third or a fourth or whatever. Two-thirds might even be too much for me because I'm not. I mean, do you guys think he's going to have a role now because he performed well with Mixon now? A bigger role? I mean, obviously he had a role, but
I mean, he is RB1 in Cincinnati, so I mean, I don't understand why he wouldn't. I mean, I think he's proved over the last couple of weeks he is the he is the better running back, but that's just one man's opinion. So no,
Yes,
but I
no
agree
one.
with you. I agree with you, Rocky. I don't think anything changes for him now that Mixon's back. Personally, I mean, he's going to get his couple of runs here and there throughout the course of a game, but you're never going to have any idea what he's going to do in a game while Joe Mixon is there. And Bill brought it up earlier. He made a good point. You know when to deploy Gio Bernard. Joe Mixon is injured. Throw yourself a Gio Bernard out there. Get yourself, a dozen or so points and go home happy.
And yeah, like I said to Bill last week, like if Mixon is out again, I mean, I'm willing to pay a third to get a possible win, and which is, and I probably would have won that game without Gio, but I didn't know that going into it. So yeah, like I said, thirds and fourths, whatever. There's no way in hell I'd pay a second for him with Mixon healthy.
Agreed. All right, Larry, we're getting a little full, so we want to thank you for coming on and joining us for a few minutes and enjoying the night with us, man. So
love it, guys.
Thanks for popping in, brother.
Anything you want to shout out on the way out?
Nice seeing you quickly, Larry.
Oh yeah, Drew, buddy. Hey, yeah, man, check it out, the old Dynasty Hot Sauce podcast, and we'll see you around Twitter.
For sure. And that's at FF Larry Monkey. All right, Larry, thanks a lot, brother. All right, so now we lose one and we gain one. So we got our man, the third member of the fantasy timeline, as I like to say, because he has come on and co-hosted for us and covered for both of us on a few different occasions.
Is he the better third?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it goes Drew, Bill, and then there's a large gap, and then I'm like right all the way down. You can't even see me under the screen, and that's where I am.
Stop it.
Drew at DR_PRA. Drew, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Finally got the kids to sleep, so
perfect.
Silent night.
And I'm not gonna bore you with the Gio Bernard talk anymore. We're gonna move on to the next game, which is the Raiders and Browns. And this is one of Rocky's favorite running backs. Josh Jacobs getting a massive workload, 31 carries for 128 yards. I don't know if you saw anything else from the Raiders or the Browns that you think is fantasy / dynasty appropriate or worth even talking about.
Not a whole lot. I had across my leagues a couple of Aguilar shares in, a couple of Rashard Higgins shares in, and both were major letdowns this week. So just
I started both in a couple places.
Yeah, man.
And you bring up something good though, Drew, because I'm sure a lot of people just with Nelson Aguilar's history, and I don't want to give Rocky any PTSD, so we're not going to talk about it for too long as an Eagles fan. But they may say I'm out on Aguilar. That was a terrible weather game, and I think that took Aguilar out of the game. I mean, I don't even know who they play next week, and I don't know where they're playing, what the weather might be. But I think that in the right situation, I would have no issue firing up Aguilar in a flex, or even if you're in a multi-flex league as a 2-3 flex, something like that. So, Bill, what about you? Are you out on Aguilar? Or are you still keeping up the hope?
I mean, yeah, so last week it was so windy, and that's going to be the issue. And you have two quarterbacks that don't have real strong arms, so they can't really cut that ball through the wind. And I mean, if you saw that first field goal attempt, I mean, that ball took like a left turn, and it was just crazy. Like, so I mean, it was just going to be one of those games, and that's why you see Jacobs getting so much volume, because we can't throw it, so let's just run it, and that's pretty much what they did, and they were just more successful at doing that, and that's why they won. And that was the same thing. Like you're going to see that, especially as we get later in the year. Some of these guys without the strong arms are going to struggle like this. So it's nice having those big arm quarterbacks when the weather starts getting a little bit worse.
I agree with you 100%, and we're going to talk about a QB in the next game that did it right. And that quarterback is the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, who played your Lions, Bill, last week. Phillip Rivers. He knew that his arm is a straight noodle, so he decided to find a team that played inside of a dome, so he didn't have to worry about such things as bad weather and wind. Hey, smart by him, because guess what? I don't have an NFL arm either, and if a team wanted to sign me, I'd pray that they played in a dome too. But Rivers, the aforementioned Rivers, 262-3, probably one of his better games of the season, and his I guess his running back mate Nyheim Hines, 62 total yards and 2 touchdowns, led the Colts to a blowout. So, Bill, they were kind of moving and grooving your Lions a little bit, and unfortunately they sputtered against the juggernaut Indianapolis Colts, and now apparently Matt Stafford has the COVID or has been in contact with someone who has had the COVID. So Chase Daniels show. So that's going to be fun with no Kenny G.
They did say if he doesn't test positive the rest of the week, he could play Sunday.
Well, that's still fun with no Kenny G. I mean,
yeah,
I guess it's more fun than Chase Daniel, but hey, listen, we're my team is talking about throwing Cooper Rush out there, so trust me, I know all about the pain of not having your guy.
Yeah, and some other guy, right? Like Garrett Gilbert.
Who ate Garrett Gilbert? Great, whatever his name is, and Ben DiNucci we threw out there, who he did his thing, I guess, or if that's what we want to call it. But anyway, back to this game. Sorry about my rant about the 9th string quarterback on the Cowboys. Anything else from the Colts and the Lions, Bill? Since you're a resident Lions expert, I talked about a couple of things that happened in that game. But was there anything else you pulled from that?
Yeah, I think that Nyheim Hines has a really nice touchdown celebration. That was impressive. I mean, it was really impressive actually that he could do that, but
he only gets to do it 4 times a year. So I mean, what I took out of that really was the Colts defense, and they're just so like opportunistic, and it's like, I'm in a couple leagues where I have defenses still, and I do have the Colts in one, and man, it's nice, like, because they've been scoring a lot of touchdowns and a ton of turnovers, and like, I don't know what it is. I mean, Matt Stafford still making like bad mistakes. He just makes some bad throws, like the brain fart every so often, and that's kind of keeping him from being, probably a top 7 quarterback. He's just consistently done that through his whole career. He's throwing some Lamar Jackson like interceptions at times, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah, it's the Lions are what they are, I guess. And Galladay not playing, it just changes the whole dynamic of the offense. They just, everybody can kind of play tighter to all the receivers. They don't have to respect anything deep. I mean, Marvin Hall has made a couple deep catches, but who's really worried about that guy? So I think the Lions are in for a rough second half of the season, and in all hopes, I hope that Matt Patricia gets like just tossed to the garbage and they sign Brady from Carolina. That would be an interesting play, but let's move on to Vikings Packers. Welcome back, Dalvin Cook. 226 total yards and 4 touchdowns. I have 1 share of him, and it is actually on that 7-1 team I was talking about earlier. So
that's why you're 7-1.
The two go together, obviously. So, Drew, anything else from that game you thought was interesting, fantasy-wise or otherwise?
No, I was very happy. I've got him in 2 spots in 1 redraft, and just moved Russ for him and a pick 3 weeks ago, I think. So got him a little bit low, and feeling really good. I co-managed that one, and I think we're 5-3 now, but the 3rd highest scoring team. So we're feeling pretty good to make the push for the playoffs here, and having a solid running back makes a big difference in setting that lineup each week.
And it's funny because I will bring him up again. I was joking around about Gio Bernard being RB1 in Cincinnati, but you kind of see, we kind of hyped up Alexander Mattison, and now we see the true gap between an elite talent like Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, as opposed to just kind of a smaller gap between like a Joe Mixon and a Gio Bernard. So, Rocky, was there anything you pulled from that game?
I obviously love the Dalvin game. I have several shares of them, and that helped me a lot. But I guess the only other thing that comes to mind is just we got to temper our expectations maybe for Justin Jefferson. He's been like the definition of boom or bust. He's like feast or famine. So people are hyping on. I mean, I still love him for Dynasty because he's a rookie, but he is a rookie, so he might not be a locked in starter every week. Maybe he is, depending on your roster, but you never know what he's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
And that's so true. And I think the thing with Justin Jefferson, and Bill can tell me if I'm wrong on this one. You're probably going to end up starting him every week because he's going to give you that 135-2 game, and you're willing to accept the risk on him maybe going 2 for 20 and sinking you in a week because he can totally win you a week or close to win you a week. So he's going to be that guy that we're going to talk about in plenty of weeks as a guy that kind of maybe busted us this week, and then following week we're going to talk about how he had a hell of a game and he propelled us to victory. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point there, Rocky, about just, we do need to temper expectations and realize he's not going to go for 100 yards and a touchdown every week. He's not there yet. I think he will be in a year or two, but he's not quite there yet.
Which I would do with the Packers. This doesn't have to do with that game, but how crazy is tomorrow going to be? The Packers may have no running backs, and the Niners will have no receivers, thanks to COVID.
Right.
Yeah,
Debo's out. Yeah. Ayuk's out. Yeah.
Possibly no tight end.
Yeah.
a quarterback by definition. Yeah, they're pretty beat up. They've taken it on the chin this year with injuries and now COVID. But
so if you have Devontae Adams, you are stoked.
Yeah.
I have him in so many places and I love it. It's
25 targets confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Robert Tonyan are gonna get like 50 targets.
All right, let's move on to the game of the week. The Jets and the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes does Patrick Mahomes things, 416 yards, 5 TDs. Travis Kelce does Travis Kelce things, 109-1. And they just remind the league that they're still the best quarterback tight end combo in the league. So I know none of us have anything to say about the Jets besides they're just, they're trucking along on their path to the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence. But is there anything else that any of you guys pulled out of that game?
Well, it's not necessarily the from that game, but just wow, how far has Darnold fallen since the beginning, like since the preseason? Like I actually in the FTC, I shot out a note to I just got an offer of Darnold for Deontay Johnson, and my initial reaction is I don't want to do that. I'd rather keep Deontay, and this isn't
me and Josh are you should do that.
Yeah, and you both did say that, and it's a 14-team super flex, so it's a little bit harder to get the quarterbacks and all that kind of stuff. And I'm still hesitant to make that decision, because we can completely see him fall the way of Josh Rosen, and it sucks to say that, but it's the next team that signs him isn't going to just automatically give him the starting position. They're going to have somebody else that's going to be competing with him. So we could completely see that him fall in value. And, Kansas City, we pretty much know what we got there. And, they tried to stop the run and, so Kansas City said, okay, well, we're going to throw the ball. And look what happened. But, man, Darnold is just – I don't even know what to do with them.
In regards to that Darnold Deontay, is it 6-point or 4-point TDs?
I'll have to look. I'll get back to that.
Especially assuming 4-point. I mean, seriously, could you not see? Assuming he stays healthy, which is obviously a big if at this point, could you not see Deontay outscoring him more weeks than not?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could even start him in your super flex and you might get more points than you're getting from Darnold a lot of weeks.
Yeah.
So I want to throw something out here, and this is a personal belief. There's no fact to support any of this. So I just want to preface that so no one it is for. So yeah, I think I think a lot of weeks you're going to see Deontay, as long as Deontay is healthy, outscoring Sam Darnold in that dumpster fire that they have in New York right now. But so here's the thing: we're going to make the big assumption that the Jets are going to get the number 1 pick. And then we're going to make another assumption that Trevor Lawrence doesn't see the New York Jets and just stay at Clemson for one more year, and he actually declares for the draft. They're probably going to trade Darnold. There's no use of having the number 1 overall pick with a guy who was still drafted in the top, what was he, 5,
3.
top 10, top 3? There you go.
Was it 3?
So I think you're right, or it was very close. I mean, he was drafted very high. I think he ends up getting traded somewhere. And if he ends up, let's say, on an Indianapolis Colts team, or maybe the San Francisco 49ers decide that Jimmy Graham ain't it and they're not quite sold on the Nick Mullins experience, maybe he gets traded over there. I think he's still a good quarterback, and I'm actually trying to buy him on the cheap, even on my contending teams, just because I just have a feeling anywhere is better than the Jets. So I guess I can't say, like, I hope he goes to a better situation, because if he's not on the Jets next year, he's automatically in a better situation. And I think he does have a lot of talent. But, I mean, when you talked about Deontay, Bill and I have been talking about Deontay since episode 2 or 3, I think. So we've been very pro Deontay since the beginning.
He's a man crush of mine as well.
So, I like this one from our man Steve Dennis, and I'm glad I got two very smart people along with my very smart co-host here. Our man Steve Dennis, who's here every week. Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold? Who would you rather? Who is a starter next year? I'm assuming the rather is who would you rather have on your team, and not who would you rather something else. But hey, I don't know. So we'll just Drew's thinking.
Shit.
So I'm gonna let Bill go first, so that Drew has a little bit of extra time to think about who would he rather.
Ooh, let me gather myself.
I'm gonna give Drew time. He's in deep
That
thought and
honeymoon
meditation.
scene, though.
Yeah. Woo. Woo.
So we'll go around the horn here. Bill, we'll start with you. DJ or Sammy D? Who you got?
I think I'm going Daniel Jones just because of his rushing. I feel like better about that. And, I do feel like he still is the quarterback there regardless. Like, there's just a lot that still has to improve with that team. And I think that the management will still be giving him the opportunity next year. Whereas I'm not necessarily sure that's the case with Darnold regardless. So, regardless if he's with the Jets or he's on another team, I can't say that quite as confidently. So I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
I'm with Bill. I think he's locked in there next year. Even if they have like a top 5 pick, they're not going to have the number 1 pick, so they're not going to get Lawrence. I don't even think they necessarily take Fields over him because like Bill said, it's a mess there. He turns the ball over too much, but in terms of passing, I don't think he's been awful. I mean,
No.
He kept them in that Bucks game. He's kept them in some other games. I think they were even in that Pittsburgh game, the week 1 for a little while. So I think he's locked in, and I think Darnold's almost certainly out of there. For that reason alone, I would rather have Daniel Jones.
All right, Drew, who do you got now that we've given you some extra time to think about this?
I can't go there.
I was so hoping you would.
This is personal for me. I've got Daniel Jones on so many rosters that I have to be optimistic. I've been able to get in so many different deals because people have been down. I think about how long they let Eli run. They're going to let him go for a while here. He's got stars around him that, again, once they all play together, I mean, once Saquon is back next year, we're waiting to see the whole offense work. And yeah, he has some of those, oh my God, what are you doing moments. But this year, I mean, so is Baker. So you go down the list and there's so many. So it's not like he sticks out like a sore thumb compared to some of the other quarterbacks that are in his tier. So I think he's got the job security. I think he's got the weapons around him. And I am selfishly hoping he gets at least another year with a healthy skill set around him to do what he can do.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of the weapons, I would wager money they bet they draft a wide receiver early next year too, with all the guys in that class, and Slayton hasn't shown he's dependable, and Shepard is what he is, and I doubt Tate's even still there.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, when you look at the quarterbacks and in the league right now, do you remember last year everyone was talking about how deep quarterback is now, like in Superflex and that. And now you kind of look at it, and I can't think that there's more than a dozen quarterbacks that I feel comfortable with right now. I don't know about you guys, but like there's very few guys. So, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting in Superflex. And that does give Darnold a little bit more of a chance, if he does change teams. There's just a lot of unknowns. And it's interesting how that flips so quickly.
Yeah, and this is an interesting question because to me it has two separate answers. So the who is a starter next year, I agree with all you guys. It's Daniel Jones. I mean, he's there. They're not, even with a top 5 pick, they're more likely to take a Jamar Chase than they are to take, a Justin Fields, let's just say, or Trey Lance. So I agree with you there with who is a starter. Who would I rather, though? I think I still rather Darnold, just because, yeah, I said it. I would rather Darnold. I was thinking about it too, Drew. I just,
Daniel Jones is pretty goofy looking, so.
He's very.
Didn't we have that conversation?
I think we did.
Yeah.
Drew mentioned them keeping around Eli for a while. Eli and Daniel Jones, a very similar look to those two guys.
We talk about that.
So who
would
would
I?
I?
It's the DAP Network Oprah Mike.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I would rather Daniel, though, because I'm worried about Daniel Jones past next year. I don't know.
You would trade them straight up? Just asking, like
straight up.
Just trying to get where you are with them.
Straight up, no, because the value doesn't say to. I mean, I'm such a value type trader that.
What would you have to have on top of Darnold to move Daniel Jones?
Second.
Yeah.
What was that? I didn't catch that.
A second. I think if someone says, "Hey, you give me Daniel Jones and take Sam Darnold in a second," I think I'm down for the cause, just because I don't know how much longer Gettleman lasts. I mean, that team has been a consistent dumpster fire since he's been there. They've had a variety of high picks, and they've done nothing to improve their fortunes. Daniel Jones is not a judge guy. He wasn't there. That wasn't the quarterback he drafted. So, if Gettleman's gone, the new GM might say, Danny Dimes is, throwing picks, coughing up the ball. He's a Jameis Winston-esque. He's not at that level, but he has.
He is.
With
his fumbles.
He's the light version of Jameis.
Jameis would have finished that TD run, though.
Yes,
that's true.
Well,
That's true. The sniper.
How damning is calling him a poor man's Jameis?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I actually do the other side of that trade. So I think if you and I were in a league with that situation, I would make that trade. I would much rather have Daniel Jones than a second and Darnold, I think.
And
that's tough. Because this year, you think, if you think long term, Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold could have similar trajectories, all said and done in 2 or 3 years, and then I get to get a guy like maybe Jordan Love in the second round again next year. Get that type of backup, wait in the wings kind of quarterback. I now have doubled my chances of quarterback hitting in Superflex. So I'd be very tempted to do that.
I get this year potentially more points than Darnold. Like, I feel like he's going to produce more this year, and he has the stable situation. So there's some safety in that. Whereas, like, we don't really know with Darnold unless, he might be on another team, and then who knows what happens. Yeah. And so that's my kind of viewpoint. So, but I can completely see either side of it, but I think I'd rather just go with a quarterback that I can safely assume I'm going to get 20 some games.
I was just going to say, I think a lesson I've learned too from Daniel Jones and also Baker Mayfield is maybe not to overrate touchdowns from quarterbacks, especially in a single season. Because I was high on Jones coming into the season because of how good a year he had last year. I had mentioned on my pod that if prorated over the full season, that he would have broken the rookie touchdown record, which is held by Baker, who was Bill's favorite quarterback, and also is not somebody I want to own anymore. So, yeah, maybe just if you see a rookie go for more touchdowns than you expect, and the other peripherals are there, or he's turning the ball over, you might want to back off a little bit.
I caught a lot of flack for that Baker, those Baker comments. Like, it was pretty interesting. Like, I was surprised that so many people were that like defending of Baker. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I was in on Baker. Baker bounced back this year, and the guy's just a game manager at this point. And yeah.
And if he can like discipline himself to become that,
that's the thing. He's a game manager who throws interceptions. Though.
Yeah, and that's the issue, right? Like
the worst kind.
Yeah.
So if he can get that discipline to do it, then great. But I mean, and then he's never going to be that like QB 8. But he can at least be a guy that you feel comfortable trotting out there as your super flex, And but at this point, like he hasn't shown the discipline to be able to do that. And
right.
Hopefully he's it seems like he was really immature coming into the league. And it might take him longer to, get through and become like a true veteran, and we'll see. I mean, I'm not rooting against the guy. I hope he figures it out, but just from what I've seen, it's just not good.
His commercial game is on point, though.
It is awesome. I love that shit.
I hope his commercials keep him in the league for another 5 years.
Did you see the last one when he was like, he's trying to get in through the gate, and he's like got all the grocery bags, and he's like, my fingers, I can't feel my fingers. Oh, it's hilarious.
Listen, my favorite Baker commercial is still you guys read that honeymoon scene? Woo! Like
that's fire.
He just was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have fun with this," and he did it, and it just came out perfect. I mean, so I'm hoping. I don't care about his actual fantasy game because I don't have him anywhere. But if that commercial game can keep him in the league 5 more years, so he keeps making it, I'm all for it. But
the team you and I share has Baker.
Oh, that's right. Ugh, bit. We also have like Cam on that team too, and Jared Goff.
But that was an orphan. That wasn't by choice.
Yeah, that was a mess. So let's move on. Rams Dolphins. Tua gets his first win, but I think it was more about the Rams wide receivers. Kupp with 110 yards, and then Robert Woods with 94 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Anything else you guys take from that game? Sounds good. Let's move it on then. Everybody.
It was nice to see Cam Akers get a little bit of run again after nothing the previous few weeks, but yeah, he's nothing you can depend on. I just something to keep an eye on.
Is that what they changed his name to after they put him in witness protection? I haven't seen that guy in weeks. Cam Akers. I have to write that down so I remember what they changed his name to. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but man, I was high on Cam Akers and
it was cool to see Tua out there. I mean, but he didn't look great. Like, let's be honest. Like he looked like a rookie, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, I don't doubt that he's going to end up being a solid pro. But it's kind of cool to see a lefty out there pitching the ball because it looks weird. You know what I mean? It's just not. You're so used to seeing a guy like bootleg one way and being able to like struggle with the throw, but he's just like launching it because he's throwing it with the opposite hand, and it's kind of cool.
All of a sudden, the right tackle matters.
Yeah,
the right tackle. Yeah,
I'm just so sad we're deprived of Fitzmagic anymore, though.
I know, I love that guy, man, and he, everybody's sad for him for sure. Like he was looking good this year, so
you want to talk about who would you rather? Did you see those shorts today?
I did see those shorts.
I did not.
Oh,
I
man,
didn't see it either.
You have to go on the Twitter machine, just search Ryan Fitzpatrick shorts. I mean, he had Daisy Dukes, except they put Daisy Dukes to shame. I mean, it was something.
I don't know if I want to look this
I know.
up.
That's what I'm thinking.
Listen, you won't regret it. This is coming from me. I promise you won't regret it. But we'll move on while you guys search that. Steelers Ravens. I wish our man Har was here for this one, but the run game for the Ravens. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Lamar is just throwing it here, there, and everywhere. The run game though, 265 yards. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, the aforementioned Lamar Jackson, running it more than throwing it actually. Anyone else got any goodness from this game?
You're looking at it again, aren't you, Bill?
Oh my God, man.
I can see it in your glasses.
So,
Drew, you got good eyes because I could barely see it in the picture I was looking at. So that's impressive.
yeah, that's crazy. That's that good for him. He's such a great teammate, like
I
he's
love
just
that
having
guy.
fun. And I actually, when I was looking that up, there was a quote from him. He's talking about Tua. He might be younger than me, quicker, faster, better decision making in the pocket, better looking, more poised, a winner, and his face doesn't look like a 1980s Bush trying to escape a bikini. I forgot where I was going with this. Like,
you said a bush in a bikini, and I think we all don't know where the hell you were going with this.
so no, that's what he's saying. So that was all his quote. So like, he's just having fun. Like, good for him, just being such a cool dude. Like, he's younger than me, but when I grow up, I want to be Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I mean, and the crazy thing is, I don't know what his contract situation is, but
It's up
if
after
he's
this year.
all right, like he could start in so many places, which is the craziest thing about. Like,
But who wants him to start? Because he's going to win games for him when teams don't want him to, and that's the challenge
that's
for
trying
him.
to win games.
Well, some teams
gonna
are, but
want
other
him.
teams aren't. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, he'd be fun if you're just a team that's maybe a year away or something like that. Like, he'd be a great mentor and just a great teammate for the chemistry is incredible. I bet down there.
Like we were talking about this earlier with Darnold, but could you imagine him with like Debo and Ayuk and George Kittle in San Francisco? Like, I don't know what the win-loss is going to be, but that's going to be one of the most entertaining teams in the league. They're going to have like 12 primetime games because everyone's going to want to see him every week just for the fun factor of it all. So
I wish I could imagine Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle all together in San Francisco.
I know, yeah. that makes two of us, my man. That makes two of us. It's oh God, it's sad. Let's move on before I start crying. Chargers,
Right.
Broncos. Drew Lock, 248-3, and Philip Lindsay, 83 yards and a touchdown. They get the job done against the Chargers with Justin Herbert, who is a damn stud, but that team can't win games to save their life. I mean, they're up and then they lose it and they're down and they almost come back, but they can't seem to actually put a win together. Anything else that you guys saw from that game that you want to talk about?
I'm going back to Rocky's statement earlier then. So what are you seeing with Herbert, Rock? Do you apply the same filter for your rookies to him, or is there something different about him where you're more optimistic from what you've seen so far?
I just think he's doing a little more than it's not just touchdowns with him. We're seeing a lot of yards, and he also just passes the. I mean, I might have said that with Baker in year 1, 2 that he passes the eye test. I don't have the numbers in front of me. It doesn't seem like he's turning it over a lot though. So yeah, so I think the other numbers. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Is that I was big on both those guys because of those touchdown numbers.
Yeah, you kind of overlook the turnovers a little bit because you're like, all right, he's gonna learn to not hold the ball higher, or not fumble, that sort of thing. And he's just shown this year that he hasn't really learned yet. And yeah, so I get that, and I agree. But just some of these throws too, Herbert made are
he's a stud.
They're elite. I mean, like that pass that he threw to Mike Williams. He had one spot he could put that ball and he put it there, and the timing was perfect. I mean, it's truly like his talent is on display where I can't ever say like I was like, oh my God, look at that throw by Daniel Jones. You know what I mean? Where this I see that once a week from Herbert. And like, so that's, I think the difference for me, like that's where Rocky's probably saying that eye test, and like, he looks amazing. And he's, Brian Harr, he was talking in our Superflex chat about how Mahomes might be the closest thing he can compare him to. And I'm like, yeah, you might need to calm that a little bit, but but hey, like he's making those throws. He's really good in the pocket. He moves around. He's nimble. He's a big dude. Like there's a lot of things going for him that it's exciting to watch him play, and he's caught up like to the other quarterbacks in this rookie class, and he's probably beyond Tua at this point just because we've not seen Tua do it yet. And I know a lot of people that are actually, like Swags is actually higher on Herbert than he is Burrow. I'm not there yet, but I'm a Burrow truther, so it's going to be hard for me to move off of him.
I agree with Bill and Herbert, but I just wanted to just say I got to get going here. I have my own podcast to record. Junkies, everybody go listen to that one too. But I just wanted to say happy anniversary to you guys. Thanks, happy Brock. To be on the DAP network with you, especially because it makes me not the oldest one there. I have to get a Bill's old joke in there.
That's right.
Thanks a lot, Rocky, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
It was fun coming on. Talk to you later.
Talk to you.
Good to see you.
So yeah, that's our man, Rocky Petrella from the Dynasty Junkies podcast. If for some reason you haven't listened to that podcast, go ahead and do that, rectify that, because
two good dudes on that, man.
Dude, and they're straight professionals, man. They came out from episode 1 just firing.
Yeah, we're like the AAA. They're the pro team. We're the yeah.
God bless, Bill. I wasn't even going to go AAA, so I'm glad you got that kind of faith in us.
I've been drinking.
Is that the tequila talking or
what? But yeah, I was saying throughout the draft process, that in Superflex, Herbert should be your 103. And I'm in a 14-team Superflex league. I got him at 110. Like,
yeah, that's insane.
Crazy. I took Justin Jefferson at 112, and I'll even call myself out. That was a tough decision for me at 110. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get both of them, and I was trying to figure out who I wanted more. And I said, well, Herbert's been my guy. I gotta go with where I have players. And I was lucky enough to get them both, but I will shout myself out and say, that was a internal struggle between, do I take Justin Jefferson and hope Herbert falls that one pick, or do I take Herbert and hope Jefferson falls that one pick? And I think I made the right decision because I got both of them. But a lot of people are talking about, hey, I got him at 110, I got him at 112, and
I took him at 104 in one of my 14-team leagues. I'm like, I can't let I got to take him because it's just tough to get quarterbacks. So even if I don't truly believe in his talent, he's still a top 10 pick. It's how do you pass on a top 10 quarterback, if especially in a deep league like that.
All right. So since we've been moseying around, I'm going to just recap the final 4 games in my notes, and you guys can throw anything you want out there. Saints Bears, Alvin Kamara for fantasy MVP, 21 touches, 163 total yards. 49ers Seahawks, Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. Russell Wilson 4 touchdowns, Metcalf 2 touchdowns. They shake off that loss. Cowboys Eagles. I wish Rocky was still here. Travis Fulgham is literally the only player I cared about from that game, and that's the note I wrote. And then Bucks Giants. Evans and Gronk get a combined 96 yards, 2 touchdowns, and now they got AB coming through, which, that offense is going to be insane. If you still can get Tom Brady, maybe from a rebuilding team, you might want to do that because he's going to be good. Anything that you guys want to, talk about from any of those games? All right, that sounds good. So we're going to talk about what we saw on the timeline. This is our bread and butter. This is where we have the most fun, even though we like talking about the news because we get into some great conversations like Justin Herbert and Sam Darnold. So, all right, this first one is from our boy J Money at J Money Jarrett. So this is a dynasty full PPR league. CEH or Saquon? Who do you guys want? Are you team CEH or are you team Saquon? Drew, why don't we start with you, man? Which side of this do you like more?
Man, that's tough. I probably go with the youth at this point and take CEH, assuming that Bell will, ride into the sunset eventually here. And as CEH matures and just blends into that offense with Mahomes, give me the $500 million quarterback with the running back whisperer coach.
Bill, what about you, brother?
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. The age and the offense. I mean, it all depends on whether I think I can move Saquon, like in August next year. Like that'd be my thought. Like just move him before the season starts when everybody is still in love with Saquon the name. But that's a lot of risk, right? You're taking in risk that you may not be able to move him. I mean, he's still an elite back, and I think that like I'd probably take Saquon just for that reason. But I mean, it's not that far apart between the two, and I can see I actually think CEH is actually the safer choice of the two.
All right, so I thought I was going to be on the island by myself, and I'm diving in the pool right with you guys. I'm with CEH also. I wish our man Brian Harr was here because he would vehemently.
Well, he's not, so too bad.
Yep, he would defend the great name of Saquon Barkley. But Bill, you bring up an interesting point, and I think the trade market would open up right around June when a hype video came out showing Saquon, cutting and running and doing the tires and all the cool stuff that we get all hype about in June, because we haven't talked about, legitimate football things since the April draft, and we're, Saquon looks good. Oh, Saquon is running against air and he looks amazing. I'm legit worried, and I keep meaning to do this. I want to talk to one of the Twitter doctors out there that really cover this and really look at this stuff, like a Ethan Turner or something like that. A high ankle sprain and an ACL in back-to-back years, that kind of thing scares me, just because, we talk about Saquon. He's explosive, he's fast, but, is he getting sapped with all these leg injuries? And do these type of injuries lead to more injuries down the road? And that's something I don't have the knowledge on, so I don't want to say, yeah, he's getting all these injuries, so he's going to keep getting these injuries, because we find out from smart people like that yes, there are certain injuries that lead to more of the same type of injury, but we've also learned that there are other injuries that are, they don't lead to future leg and foot problems. So
well, from what I understand, like ACLs, you're gonna the next year you're gonna see compensatory injuries, right? So like the guys don't truly trust their knee yet, so they're not putting the full pressure on it, which causes muscles to work harder than they ought to, and then they end up pulling stuff. So we saw that with Dalvin Cook. He had a bunch of those last year after his ACL, and I think we're going to see that. It's just more of a potential of that. I don't necessarily know, because again, I'm not a doctor, but at least from what I've listened to from those guys, you see a lot of that the year after their ACLs.
So yeah, that all of that, plus the fact that, we're talking about the Chiefs versus the Giants. We mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Daniel Jones. Chiefs, I think we can all agree, know what they're doing out there, and the Giants are lagging behind in that department. I'll put it to be nice. So yeah, give me CEH. J Money, I hope you listen to us. We went 3 for 3 on this one, and all of us, by the way, we are in the deep minority with only 27% of the vote going CEH. So that's a good thing. That means that you can get you can take your Saquon and turn it into CEH and some more.
Yep.
To make a deal happen. So if you're looking at it, maybe that's something you want to do. So this one I thought was interesting. I want to throw it out here. This is Patty Mahomes Dynasty FFB burner at Nobody Asked FFB. What's a fair Patrick? Oh, let's try this again. Woo, woo. What's a fair package for Patrick Mahomes in Superflex Dynasty? How many firsts would you want in return? What players would you specifically target in a package when you're giving up Mahomes? Very curious to me. I've seen Saquon go for 4 firsts in one of my leagues before. So obviously I stumbled through that one a little bit. But I can't remember.
You did a great job.
No, I didn't.
It's like you've been doing this for a year.
Oh, God, that's the terrible part. I have been doing this for a year, and that's what I come up with. But maybe it was the Trade Addicts, maybe it was another podcast. I heard them talking about the days of Saquon going for 4 first-round picks or CMC going for 4 first-round picks, and I could be wrong, but I don't, in the leagues that I'm in, I don't see as many of those deals being done anymore. I feel like people are kind of getting smarter where it's not, you got the tickler?
The Deontay Tickler.
Do you have the Deontay Tickler?
Yeah.
That's usually reserved for me, but I guess I'll share it with Bill on our 1-year anniversary. That's my present to you, brother.
Thanks.
So, how many firsts would you want in return? I mean, Pat Mahomes is like one of those things where I can't even imagine trading him. Like, I don't have him on a single team, so I may be the worst person to speak to in this situation. But I can't imagine in a super flex of any, I don't care if it's a 12-team super flex where there are a lot more quarterbacks to be dispersed. I can't imagine getting a deal in my inbox and I see that I'm sending away Patrick Mahomes and I look at the other side and I go, I got to do that deal. Hey, let's go, because I mean, even if we look at last year, on a lot of people's super flex rankings, Lamar Jackson was number 2. And we're finding out this year that Lamar Jackson at number 2 is probably is hurting the team a little bit, And before the season started, maybe Deshaun Watson was number 3. Well, then they traded DeAndre Hopkins, and now he's starting to ramp back up. But we saw a month of him struggling, trying to figure out how to use a Randall Cobb and a Brandon Cooks and a Will Fuller, and so it's almost like there's Patrick Mahomes and then a bunch of other people. And I mean, Russ this year has been elite on that level, but that's a team kind of transforming from being this run heavy team to now a more, I don't even want to say they're a pass heavy team. I think they're more of a 50-50 team. So yeah, in first round picks, I can't even come up with the number
this year and the 101 in 2022. So I know I'm getting, I can't even Trevor Lawrence. So
right.
I want the 101 this year, and I want to find the 101 the year after, and then on top of that, I'm taking give me DK Metcalf kind of caliber wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, or I would need like a Kyler Murray in there as well. So I've seen it in one of my home leagues. A guy paid out the nose. He actually made 2 trades to get Mahomes. He gave up Dobbins and Jacobs as part of it. It was just unreal. But he's also sitting in first place in the league right now as the high scorer by like 100 points, 8 weeks in. So the price does not matter. If you have the assets to get Patrick Mahomes, just say yes.
Oh, agree. Well, what about you, Bill, on the picks department? Is there even a number of picks that you can say yes, that will let me trade Patrick Mahomes away?
No, because I would need some players back. I wouldn't just do picks. That's just, I'm trading away the top asset in a super flex for like unknown at that point. So I would need Deshaun Watson and like probably 2 firsts, like for me to even consider doing that. Yeah. The thing is, like, I think Deshaun Watson's in that tier, right? He's in that top tier. I think Mahomes is a tier And then I think there's like maybe 5 or 6 quarterbacks in that next tier. And like, I think Mahomes, he's like Aaron Rodgers 12 years ago. Like, that's what you're getting. And so, what are you going to give up for Aaron Rodgers' career? And, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be times where he's not nearly as productive as we think he's going to be all the time, because their defense is going to get better. And, he's not going to have to be as dynamic and as, push it down the field as much as he is right now. And, he'll always be a gunslinger to a point. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And his vision is just so alien-like. It's just incredible. So like, yeah, I don't move him unless I'm getting like, it's a no-brainer. So that's the problem, right? Like, what is a no-brainer? And it would be just some astronomical amount of first value, but I would have to have veterans and players that I know are putting up points. And
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just reference this since this is a trade I made myself. I didn't trade away Patrick Mahomes, but I did trade away Russell Wilson, and I got Deontay, Blake Jarwin, 2 firsts and a second. And even that deal, if you put the name Patrick Mahomes there, I can't pull the trigger.
I feel that's pretty light. And you got
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, and that's Russ is 7 years older than Mahomes.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think if you switch Patrick Mahomes with Russell Wilson and put that same deal that I received because I'm a rebuilding team, I can't do it.
No way.
And I was big on Russ this year. I got Russ in a lot of startups because I was that dude who was like, I'm gonna grab him. If it comes to me in the first, he's mine. And I still, like, if you put Patrick Mahomes there, I'm like, oh, sorry, like I need 2 more firsts and a quarterback and still Deontay and still Blake Jarwin, and it's going to be a lot. But let's talk about Bill made mention of it. Players you would specifically target. It's almost like you need a top 5 quarterback coming back to you, plus the picks. Plus, Drew mentioned the DK Metcalf. It's almost going to have to be a deal that when you send it, or if you counter a trade, you're going to look at the deal and be like, this deal is so ridiculous that there's no possible way that the other person could hit accept, because you need like Deshaun Watson, 2 firsts, DK Metcalf, a second, maybe like a Jonnu Smith or like something like that, just to make it feasible.
And think about it this way, like, last year you might have been able to get something done, but because of what, we were talking about earlier, where the quarterbacks are just there's so much more unknown this year, that like you have a surefire elite quarterback for the next decade. Like, what's the value in that? It's just so impossible to value, you know what I mean? To price. And I mean, like, I can't envision him, if he's healthy, ever falling out of the top 6 of quarterbacks.
No.
Like, can you see? No. Like, I can see him having a rough year, or maybe where the offense or the defense is so good, and the teams that are playing him are pulling their safeties completely back. Like, I can see where they don't run as many, plays and that sort of thing, where it maybe limits his like craziness, but still I don't see him falling out of the top 6. I'm talking about everything that could go wrong, and he's still a top 6 quarterback.
And here's the crazy thing about it. The Chiefs have set themselves up to where, like, we talked about Sammy Watkins during the offseason. He's going to be gone. He's making too much money. And Sammy was like, listen, I will take less money to stay here. You're going to see that with the Chiefs as long as Patrick Mahomes is there.
You're right.
You know what? If, let's just say, the Browns kick OBJ to the curb because they're tired of, the injuries and the antics and the, all this stuff, whatever. Like, I could imagine Andy Reid, hey Odell, listen, we're gonna pay you like $5 million under market, but you get Pat Mahomes to throw to you. And OBJ is gonna be like, oh shit, okay, yeah, like let's.
And when that happens, trade OBJ right at the start of the season.
But I mean, they have they have Travis Kelce. Like they're just gonna keep getting these players, whether it's through the draft or through free agency. Like they're gonna just keep reloading. People are gonna go there on discounts because Andy Reid is a legendary offensive mind, and he's a guy that got so little credit after he was let go in Philadelphia. And being a Cowboys fan and seeing him in the NFC East for over a decade, I wasn't one of those people. I was actually hoping at the time that Dallas would sign him because I was like, oh my God, like his mind in that environment could be legendary. And the Chiefs made the right move. Then they get Alex Smith, and everyone's like, Alex Smith? Like, that guy sucks. Like, he lost his job to, Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco. And then he turned Alex Smith into a god. Then he goes, all right, Alex, we drafted this guy, Patrick Mahomes from Texas A&M, who, whatever. And now has made Patrick Mahomes the god. And, he takes a fourth round wide receiver in Tyreek Hill and makes him, legendary. You get a mid-round tight end in Travis Kelce, makes him legendary. It's just like pretty much everything he touches turns to gold. We make fun of Sammy Watkins, but that guy is legendary for like 2 weeks every season. And, usually 1 week in the playoffs. So, that's like something, with a lot of quarterbacks, you have to worry like, oh man, what happens if the weapons go? I think the Chiefs have set themselves up where like the weapons aren't going to go. And the other thing is that Andy Reid surrounds himself with smart football minds. I mean, we look at Doug Peterson in Philadelphia, and they've been bit by the injury bug more than anything else. But that guy is a smart football mind. I mean, he led the Eagles to a Super Bowl, which they had never done before. So, it's like one of those things, the biggest name out there right now as a future head coach is Eric Bieniemy. Another guy, Matt Nagy. All right, like everyone gets one wrong every once in a while, but a lot of smart guys. But before we hit the next one, we're going to.
So the short answer is there is no package of picks that'll get you Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I know. I ranted for about like 7 straight minutes, but I think we determined that a while ago.
Okay.
There's not going to be a give me 7 firsts and you can have Patrick Mahomes. No, thank you. You can keep all your firsts and whatever, and I will take Patrick Mahomes and I will figure it out from there. But here's one from our man Larry Monkey, who was on the show not that long ago. Mike Evans or Cole Beasley? I don't know if you mean for like this week or like forever. A couple, I think. How many cigarettes do you think Josh can fit in that beard? I could probably get a pack in here. If I'm creative. I trimmed it down actually. It was longer beforehand. I just grew a quarantine beard and I just went with it. But we'll go. I'm assuming Larry means for this week. So Mike Evans or Cole Beasley. Drew, why don't you start us out since you are our resident Bills reporter? Mike Evans or Cole Beasley?
I see you there, Larry. Yes, way more in Josh's beard than mine. Mine only holds candy cigarettes. As far as this goes, I guess Godwin has an opportunity to play, right? I mean, he did the walkthrough today, so depending on how his hand is feeling, he might play. I guess I would probably take the in PPR, especially take the targets for Cole Beasley. He seems to be Josh Allen's safety blanket this year. Doesn't really matter the game script. It looks like he's getting his points. So if you're looking for a floor, I would take Beasley. If you're looking for the opportunity to get 3 catches for 20 yards and 2 touchdowns, then Mike Evans your guy.
Bill.
So I get confused with white nondescript slot receivers Was Cole Beasley the player that was knocked out last week, or was it the Titans?
Adam
Oh,
Humphries. He got
Humphreys.
knocked out.
Okay, they're like the same guy to me. So
Wrong white guy, Bill.
yeah.
Wrong white guy.
I'm such a racist. I'm sorry, but yeah.
I
I
can't
mean,
even.
I'm going Mike Evans. I mean, I just have to because, and I'm probably wrong, but I think I'll probably die with Mike Evans on my team just because.
All right,
Yeah.
so we got some clarification here. He said, "I'm just picking on Mike Evans because no one seems to want him." I mean, if you only have to trade away Cole Beasley to get yourself some Mike Evans, you could go ahead and
Oh,
do that.
God, yeah. God.
Oh, of course.
you know.
Wrong white guy.
Wrong white guy, Bill.
My
God,
bad.
I gotta tell him all the
Great.
time.
Don't at me.
He thinks all white guys look the same, Drew.
Yeah,
It's
you
something
can
he's
edit
trying
this
to
out,
work
but yeah,
on
you know.
Nah,
over
we're
the
not
last
editing.
year.
I don't edit.
I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm one of those people. We had a question last week. Would you want Fulgham or Evans long term in Dynasty? You know, Bill said Evans, but was kind of like, I could maybe make an argument for Fulgham.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard answer. Hard to answer.
I full on made the argument for Fulgham and believe it, by the way. This isn't just a, like, I'm just got to talk to, fill time. But, Rocky came to us in the DAP network chat and was like, "You're telling me that you want Fulgham over Evans?" And I'm like, I mean, I do, because I can make a very plausible explanation to get Fulgham as the wide receiver 1 in Philadelphia next year. It's not hard. I mean, Jeffrey's not going to be there next year. Deshaun's not going to be there next year. Zach Ertz isn't going to be there next year. So we have Fulgham and we have Jalen Reagor. I will admit I was low on Reagor during the draft process, so that's a bias I have built in. But, I mean, we saw Reagor get a touchdown last week only because Fulgham got tackled at the 2-yard line. I mean, Fulgham did all the heavy lifting and then said, "Come on, little buddy, you go get a touchdown. It's okay." And I mean, we're looking at it right now. I think we can all agree we like Godwin more. It seems like Brady is starting to warm up to Gronk more now.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're throwing AB into the mix. And there's a legitimate situation where next season, Mike Evans is the third option on a team that I think is going to be a good passing offense. But I mean, how many third offenses or how many third players in an offense do you want? There's not a lot of guys that you get happy. Oh, this is the third guy, but I'm happy to have him.
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about
maybe the Cowboys when Dak is back.
Yeah, and we're and not even then, because we saw Michael Gallup with Dak there, and you
Very
weren't
true.
like super excited every week. I mean, you knew he was going to have his weeks, but you couldn't predict it. So, here's a good one, Drew. We'll chop this one up a little bit. Fulgham or Lazard?
Gut shot. I'd still go with Fulgham.
2 for 2, Fulgham. Listen. Everywhere I have Fulgham, I'm not giving him. I mean, if I'm rebuilding, I need minimum a high second, and every week he plays, that price goes up because he has not fallen off that cliff yet.
Yep.
There hasn't been that 2 for 25 game where you're like, this is Travis Fulgham, damn it. It's like, hey, he's got 100 yards, he's got 2 touchdowns, he's got the combination of both of them, and he just keeps going. And, maybe once he hits that one game where he goes, 2 for 25 or 3 for 18, maybe that's when, the price dips a little bit. But, I mean, it's been on the rise since he's been out there starting. So here's a good one from Lee Shakur. Is this a fair trade? Gurley, Deontay Johnson, and Jonathan Taylor for Jacobs and Justin Jackson. Who wins that trade? All right, so Bill, why don't you hit this one first? You got Gurley, Deontay, and JT, or Jacobs and Justin Jackson?
So I'm still pretty high on Jonathan Taylor, so I feel like I can make him a wash with Josh Jacobs to a point. So then it's like Gurley, Deontay for Justin Jackson. I think that's just a blowout of the water. So I think that the Jonathan Taylor side is a huge win. So is it fair? I feel like you need to add like, is this redraft or dynasty? I guess that's a question.
Lee,
And
if you're here, why don't you answer that? We'll let Drew give his thought process, and then we'll yak about it, whether it's redraft or dynasty. So,
Yeah,
Drew,
this
who do
is,
you got in this one?
If this is redraft, then I'm okay with taking the Jacob side rest of
Yep.
season. But if it's nice and easy, I think John Bosch put out a poll earlier this week or last week, and something like 25 or almost 40% of the responses said that JT is worth a first or less after his first half of this year. And it's like,
wow.
what the heck are we doing here?
Do we remember Nick
so-
Chubb? Like the first half of Nick Chubb's
Yeah.
season? Like, you know, I don't know. Like it's dynasty. So Lee said it
Yeah.
was dynasty. So I mean
Yeah.
that's a huge win on the Taylor side for me.
Yes.
I think there needs to be at least a first added.
I would say at least a first.
Yeah.
Yeah, minimum. Because I mean, look at it. We can bag on Todd Gurley all we want, but the dude is getting into the end zone.
Mhm.
Like he might only end the game with 41 yards, but there's always a little mark on that.
He's
TD
scoring a ton
pop.
of touchdowns.
So even for this year, Todd Gurley is a guy that you can kind of start with confidence. Yeah, you don't know about that yardage, but almost every week he's getting a TD next to his name, at least one.
So
Go
let's parse this out. Like Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor and Gurley for Jacobs, right? Like I think that's legit, right? Because Jacobs is doing better. Like we could say that that's at least reasonable. You're not gonna like complain about that.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not making that trade, but I'm just saying like you can at least say that. But then you have Deontay versus Justin Jackson, which is just enormously different. So like
And
yeah.
see, I parse it out a little differently than you do because I'm actually looking at Deontay and JT for Jacobs, since those two are the top two on the 3-man side, and Jacobs is the top man on the two back side. And then I'm looking at Gurley for Justin Jackson, and I'm still like, even if I just get 8 more games of Todd Gurley going for a touchdown every game, I want that over Justin Jackson. Because,
no question. Yeah, I agree
Justin
with
Jackson
that.
might have 2 games this year where he goes for over 100, but
Yep.
the other 6 games he might be, 1 carry for 5 yards, and that's all we get out of him. So
and maybe he's won the job. Maybe he's beaten Kelly, and he ends up getting that role. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think that they're different running backs, and I think that Kelly's always going to be that secondary back regardless. And so I think that Justin Jackson's almost taken over the Eckler role right now, and we're going to see that disappear once Eckler comes back. So I mean, I agree. Like Gurley's a huge win over Justin Jackson, and I think Deontay and Jonathan Taylor is a huge win over Jacobs. So I mean, it's sizable. It might be it could be close to 2 first difference, like at least a first and a second difference.
Right, I agree with you. So Lee, I hope that helps you out. I think we're all on the Gurley, Deontay, and JT side on that one. I hope that was you. I hope you snagged that because it was nice. We're going to throw one more out here on the way out just because we've been going hard. It's the 1-year anniversary, so we went a little longer to celebrate. But my beer's almost empty, and I see 2 close to empty cups there. So let's do this last one. This is from FF Guru Gub Crown. All right. At Gubber Ski, and I'm not spelling it out because ski. Well, I'm starting Gibson over Zeke this week. I'm doing it. Sorry, Zeke. That Pitt D bites, and I guess I guess it just means like they bite down hard on guys. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm thinking too much into it. But
You're old.
I'm old. So we'll go around the horn here. Bill, do you agree with the move or do you disagree with the move? Gibson over Zeke this week.
Jeez, that's so tough, right? Like, I mean, Zeke was a top 4 running back entering the season, and he's still an elite running back. He just has a shite line with a shite quarterback, and it's like, they're going to be just shutting down the run, which is going to force whatever shite quarterback they have, so it's a challenge. I mean, who does Washington play this week? Anybody know?
It's a good matchup, whatever it is, because I am starting him in a couple of leagues.
I mean, I almost think that's overthinking it, but at the same time, I mean, he's done really well. I mean, when he's played, he's catching a lot of balls. He is kind of like
they're playing the Giants.
Oh, that's right. Jeez, that is
so that's an easy choice for me. I'm seeing Pollard pick up on some extra carries. That offense is just a mess. If Dalton was playing, I would feel better about having Zeke in there and getting a more typical workload, having to respect a little bit of the intermediate pass at least. But for this week, I am 100% on board. Throw Gibson in there against the Giants. Doesn't matter if it's dump off screens, in the flat, wheel routes, whatever, or straight up handoffs. I think Gibson has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in him this week.
All right.
Sorry, Josh.
I am so interested to hear what Josh says because, I'm leaning that way too. It's crazy. How did we get here? It's just blowing my mind.
2020, man. 2020.
Yeah, right.
All right. So this is what I'm going to say. I think if it was another running back, I would agree with it. I didn't and still haven't bought into the Antonio Gibson experience. I understand that he's been ramping it up as the season. I think it's just what I saw during the draft process. I thought of him as a gadget guy, as kind of a guy that can get out there and kind of like a this is a term I use, a homeless man's Darren Sproles. He's gadgety. He can do some things well, but he's never going to be that big time elite guy. And then when everything happened in the backfield in Washington with Darius Geis and his situation and them letting AP go, I saw trades where people are trading 2 firsts to get him. And I'm like, you guys are insane. He's not that guy, So I never bought into Gibson, and Zeke is an elite talent that plays on a very bad team right now. And I'm a Cowboys fan, but I am not going to sugarcoat anything. The team, and a lot of it is injuries, but they're on the 4th string quarterback, and there's a lot of 2nd and 3rd string offensive linemen that are running around, and they're also injured on defense. It's just bad all over the place. And the Steelers are record-wise at least the best team in the NFL right now. So that would lead you to say maybe you sit down Zeke, but I think if it was anyone else, I think I could go with the anyone else. But Gibson, I'm still going to go Zeke, and I'm probably wrong, but
I think you might be. And the reason I'm saying that, and it's blowing my mind that I'm even countering this comment that you're making, but he is getting volume. It's not you know what I mean? So as much as you think he's a gadget guy, that's not what the Washington team is using him as. And so that's where he's more efficient than Zeke right now. And
agreed.
It's crazy. Zeke is still for me a top 5 running back in the league. It's just a horrible situation he's in.
Mm-hmm.
But for this week and that matchup for each of those players, I can see somebody deciding to do that. And I can't argue it. There's the start your studs, and I can appreciate people who believe that. But I find that these matchups are so polar opposite of each other for these running backs, and their situations are somewhat polar opposite. And not really. I mean, the situations aren't quite as polar opposite because, I mean, it's not like Washington's some incredible
They're both shite.
team, but their offensive line is slightly better than, and
Well,
their
let me put it to you this
quarterback's
way.
probably slightly better. Everything's slightly better for Washington right now.
So I want to bring this up and let me know if this changes your mind, because these two teams actually played 2 weeks ago. So a fairly recent game, it happened. Antonio Gibson, 9 carries for 30 yards, 4 receptions for 25 yards. So he didn't exactly smoke the Giants. And the PPR, yeah, you get those, 4 reception points, but really I went back. Leonard Fournette was like 15 for 52. Boston Scott, who I know Boston Scott isn't, the elite, but he was 12 for 48 or something like that. So the Giants seem to actually be good against running backs.
Okay.
They're not the Steelers. Like, they're
Of
not
course.
the Steelers. We're not.
But maybe it's not as saucy of a matchup as we think. And that's
Correct.
legit. I mean, you are bringing up some good points. And that does make me hesitate more for sure.
So I just wanted to bring, because I actually was like looking at it and I was like, God, how the hell do I defend Zeke? Maybe if I go through the stats, maybe I'll find. And then
please give me something that. Yeah.
Because listen, if Leonard Fournette went like 12 carries for like 115 yards, I wouldn't have brought it up.
But let's be honest, like all of those teams that we're talking about, and I mean, they don't have fantastic offensive lines either. But I mean, and that's legit. I mean, Washington's isn't fantastic either, and so like that's the point. But I don't know, man. It's
Giants are
I
top 10
think
rush
I'm
defense.
still like, you've made me hesitate for sure, but I still think I'm leaning Gibson.
And listen, I when the words came out of my
God,
mouth,
that sucks.
When the words came out of my mouth, I felt like I was going to be in the minority. So I'm not really trying to say that the world is wrong and I'm right. But
but you brought up some good points, and they're definitely something that needs to be considered, no question. And I think it's not as clear cut as initially when my brain was telling me you must start Gibson in this situation. So yeah, I mean that's legit. And yeah.
And looking at it
Well, where are we in this world where this is even a conversation? It's just mind blowing.
Dude,
Drew, what did you do?
2020, man. Freaking 2020. We're talking about, we're talking about the Cowboys starting possibly Cooper Rush, Gibson maybe being a better play than Zeke. I mean,
Well, let me ask you this. I don't know how much DFS you guys do. I don't do a lot. But let's say they're on FanDuel or DraftKings, and let's say they're $500 apart. Zeke is $500 more than Gibson, just purely based on talent, ADP, etc., average points per game or whatever. Would you pay up a little extra to have Zeke in there, or would you take the discount on Gibson this week?
So that's a different conversation, right? Because then you're dealing with values and that sort of thing. Steve Dennis says neither, and I probably agree with him. Like, yeah,
Fair.
I mean that's legit. But I mean, if I had to pick, I would probably, because then there's value being taken into account, and I would probably take Gibson.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make it 3 for 3. I take Gibson too, just because I can use that $500
in that situation
savings, and I can roll that into maybe a slight upgrade at wide receiver or something like that. So yeah, in a situation like that where we're talking about a salary cap, I'm taking, because I mean honestly, I could see this game where like both guys score 10.5 PPR points, and we're talking about, all right, maybe what guy got, maybe Antonio Gibson goes 5 for 40, and that's what puts him slightly over the top, and that, look, Bill's right, man. 2020, man.
It's crazy.
We're talking about some of the crazy, we're talking about the fact that like Adam Gase still has a job, even though at this point it's obvious that they're just tanking for that number 1 pick. I think they can fire him right now and still get it, but I mean they're going hard, and I respect the hustle. We're talking about Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert being like guys that we're legit gonna have in like the top 10 in like super flex startups. Like they're gonna be like top 10 quarterbacks that we're legit like, yeah, they're gonna be on my team, good luck. Yeah. And we're talking about a team led by Tom Brady, with Chris Godwin, with Mike Evans, with Gronk, now adding AB, except that's not in New England, that's in Tampa Bay. Like 2020 has just been insane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just from the football aspect. Let's not even talk about everything else that's happening in the world right now. So, and like, I don't know if you heard this earlier, Drew. We opened the show by saying this is the most important day in American history, our 1 year anniversary, just because there is nothing else going on in the world right now of importance. It's us 1 year that's where it's at. So,
yeah, absolutely. 52 episodes, man. Nothing could overshadow that.
I agree with you. I mean, personally, I'm just glad there's nothing else going on in the world that could even be talked about in the same breath as 52 from the FT guys right here. The real 3-man crew. I mean, Drew, you are our third host. As I said earlier, you've bailed us out of so many situations. You've covered for us. You are definitely a part of a team, and you have made our trek to 52 a lot easier with everything you've done for us. All right, one more on the way out. I thought that was the way out.
I'm not ignoring this one.
It's Zeke, God damn it! I'm not even. You guys don't get to answer. It's Zeke. You Zeke haters.
It said
What a
Adrian
year.
Peterson or Zeke, so that was just a joke from Steve.
Steve,
What a
I
year.
love Steve. Steve is consistent, man. Steve is here every week. He's doing it, and
Appreciate you, Steve.
Steve has all the right to bust my stones because he is loyal to the fantasy timeline. So look, man, Drew, thank you for coming on. I want to throw a few thank yous, and then I'm gonna let you shout out whatever you want to shout out on the way out. Russ and Brian, Dynasty Outhouse, Brian Haar, weren't able to make it today, but like appreciate you guys from deep down. You guys hit us up on DM and said, hey, we're starting a podcast network and we want you guys to be a part of it. And I legit thought it was a joke because I couldn't believe that a pod as young as we were was even in that thought process for someone as big time as Russ and as big time as Brian. And when he told me he was actually nervous that we would say no, I laughed because I was like, how on earth will we say, like, that's insane. So thank you to those two guys. I mean, Russ is one of the dudes that actually made this thing a reality. I reached out to him when this was just a thought in my mind, and he was so helpful. Thank you to all the dudes on the DAP network. You saw Rocky here, one half of the Dynasty Junkies, his main man, Dustin Church, who is just an awesome human being. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to Casey Kasem, to Scott Sidlow, to Justin Rogers, all the dudes on the DAP network. You guys are awesome. Thank you to you guys that are in the chat. Steve Dennis is one of those guys. Larry Monkey is one of those guys. We had Lindsey Kennedy in here earlier. So many people that have just been riding with us for such a long time. Appreciate all you guys. Drew, I shouted you out a little bit. I'm going to shout you out a little bit more. Thank you, man. You have covered for me on multiple occasions. You have covered for Bill on occasion. And every time we ask you to fill in for us, you come with just straight fire, just a wealth of knowledge. And we don't miss a beat when you cover for either one of us. Actually, you're better at this than I am. So I appreciate when you come on for me.
Stop it.
Because the show is actually better.
I'm blushing.
So appreciate you. And then last but not least, my main man, Bill McCarthy at Super Duper Flex, the dude that allows me to say all of the reckless things that I say, and then kind of just brings in that, that level of like, hey, Josh, you might be going a little off the rails, and just brings it back with again, a wealth of knowledge. You're just such a smart dude in this space, and you're blowing up too, man. I'm starting to hear you everywhere. I thought it was just in my head at first, but then I realized that I listen to a ton of podcasts. So, I mean, technically it is in my head. I wear headphones a lot,
There you go.
but you're blowing up too, because, a lot of other people are starting to see what I saw more than 52 weeks ago when you hit me up and said, "Hey man, I might be interested in doing something with you." We chatted for 3 hours and I was like, this is the dude right here. Not only is he super smart, but he is a amazing person. And I need someone to cover up for all of my flaws and deficiencies. So this guy's perfect. So those are all of my thank yous. If I miss somebody, please. We've had like a million amazing guests that I'm not even going to start naming because I will miss someone.
For sure.
And be a jerk. A lot of guys that have lifted plenty of episodes with their knowledge. So, Drew, is there anything you want to shout out? Anywhere you want people to find you?
No, I'm not worried about that, man. I just appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have so much fun with you guys, and yeah, all the shows on the DAP network. Shout out to Rocky and Dustin. They helped craft a pretty awesome trade in the off season for me when I submitted that to their pod. So if you want a lot of interaction, this is the network to do it on. I'm in one of the what's it called? One of Scott Fish's 3-year leagues with the DLF leagues with Russ on a team with John Bosch. It's a hoot to see those guys in the chat, make some trades with them. So it's an awesome network, group of folks here. Love listening to Casey and can't wait to see what she puts out next week. I know she's got some stuff pre-recorded for her new pods. So yeah, this is awesome. And the FTC chat, that's been so much fun, throwing out trade ideas. And I know you shout that out every week, but I feel like every morning I wake up to something fun and something new in that chat, and learn a lot about the folks in there. So kudos to you guys for putting together a community within a community here. So here's to another successful year, another 52, and going on beyond that.
Appreciate you, Drew. And just remember, everybody, he is too modest to do it, so I will do it for him. Follow him at dr_pra. You won't regret it. You could ask Dr. Pra. You can ask this guy anything, and he will get back to you, and he will give you a highly intelligent answer. So,
For sure.
If you're not doing it, stop missing out, because that's what you're doing right now. You're missing out on a smart fantasy mind. So we're gonna wrap this up, man. I shouted out the chat already. Thank you guys. So many great questions. Larry, Steve, all you guys had great questions. You guys really kept us on our toes for the 1 year. If you are watching this on YouTube and I didn't see you in the chat, I didn't shout you out, remember to subscribe, hit that bell. Not only do you get us, but you get anything else that the DAP network puts out there. And Bill was doing all the things and everything. There you go. Oh, my sound effects. We are getting fancy in our 1 year. Yeah, do that. If you're listening to us on the podcast, this is a little bit of an extended episode because, hey, we turned 1. So we appreciate it. You could be doing anything, literally anything else. You could be out to lunch with your husband or wife. You can be mowing the lawn, working, listening to other podcasts, reading, watching a game. But you decided to stick with us and listen to what we had to say and just have as much fun as we're having. We appreciate that. If you're doing it in podcasts and you're not subscribed for some reason, subscribe. Then rate us and review us, because that helps us get out there. Bill says we don't actually read those things, but I read them. So don't listen to Bill. I'm on top of it.
I can't read.
Yeah, Bill can't read. Okay. And like I always say, steal grandma's phone, subscribe. She won't know the difference anyway. Or maybe she's real into Dynasty and Fantasy, and she's going to take a listen.
That'd be awesome.
So on that note, Bill, it's been 1 year. Let's get out of here.
Late.